Hey everyone, Screaming Geek Media here. I am Jer the Geek. Today I'm going to talk about the top 10 true stories. But before we get in, if you like physical media, 4Ks, Blu-rays, DVDs, like home theater, just movies in general, check out my other videos on the channel because I do these kind of different discussions. I do reviews, unboxings, collection updates. Check that stuff out. Hit the like button, subscribe, and turn your bell notifications on. So today we're going to do a top 10 list of my favorite true story movies. Because it got me thinking, because I'm this month, doing a monthly theme of, watching, family movies, faith-based, inspirational movies. And, a lot of the true story movies are kind of like, inspirational. So they kind of fall in both camps. I did a true story month earlier this year, which some of these got talked about. So I thought I'd do a top 10 list, and talk about some of my favorites. But before we get into the actual top 10s, I definitely got a whole stack of honorable mentions. And, these are in no particular order, but just some obscure titles maybe you've never heard about. I just want to get, talk about them and, recommend you definitely want to check these out. That's one of the things I want to keep on my channel is, I don't want to stick with mainstream movies. I want to talk about stuff that people don't know about. Get the word of mouth out there because there's a lot of great movies out there that are not mainstream and people just don't know about. A lot of YouTubers are just reluctant to talk about them because they're not popular movies and whatnot. So I just want to keep doing that kind of content on my channel. So here we go. We're going to start the honorable mentions. We're going to start off with Spirit of the Game. A lot of no-name actors in it. We do have Kevin Sorbo in it. Plays a small role. But it has to do with the Australia, their basketball team. It was for 1956 Olympic Games. And they're not that good. And to get some help, they got these group of missionaries. There's a couple of guys that are really into basketball, and they talk the organization into helping out the basketball team, as far as training, doing some exhibition games as they, prepare them for the Olympic Games themselves. So this is a very good movie, very well done. Definitely would recommend picking this up. It's really good. Next up, we got another sports movie. We're going to get into football this time, which this video is going to have a lot of football stuff, but first one we're going to talk about is When the Game Stands Tall. This actually has to do with a high school team, De La Salle High School, and basically it's called the Spartans. And it's the coach played by Jim Caviezel, or Caviezel. I probably butchered that name. I'm not really good with names. He builds this winning football team that they go on this big, massive winning streak. And actually, everyone calls it the streak. They go like 151 games and they finally get beaten. Then they start doing again. But it's all about the coach. He loves the winning, but at the same time, that's not his main goal. He wants to teach the kids core values, on and off the field, live the good life. There's more important things in life than just winning, football. So he's completely against the whole term of the streak, and he hates it. He wants to get, like I said, he just wants to teach the kids his core values. He also has Michael Chiklis and Laura Dern in it. So When the Game Stands Tall, very good inspirational true story movie. Next up, we got another football movie, Woodlawn. Now, this is actually directed by Andrew and John Irwin, who has actually directed a few movies that we're going to be talking about today. They do some great inspirational true story movies. And it's also, as far as starring, has Caleb Castell, Sean Astin, John Voight, C. Thomas Howell. And it has to do with the Woodlawn high school football team in Alabama. It has to do with the segregation, and there's blacks would come onto the football team, and there's the whole race mixing thing. Everyone's they're fighting, riots going on, And so they bring in this chaplain that, tours the different schools, preaching the gospel, and then, you know, it helps this team out to, to come together. So a very good movie. I really love it. I've watched this a few times. Very well done. Definitely recommend checking this out. Next up, we've got actually a mainstream true story movie here, Sully with Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks plays an airline pilot, and they take off from New York City. And soon after takeoff, there's a little incident happens, and he realizes there's no way he's going to be able to get back to the airport and land properly. So he basically ditches the plane into the Hudson River, and all of a sudden there's this big investigation going on that they think that they're trying to tell him that he was in the wrong and blah, blah, blah. But I've had this for a long time. I just recently watched this about a month or so ago. So very good movie. I really like this. And of course, Tom Hanks, I think him and Mark Wahlberg are in the running for doing the most true story movies because they've done a lot of them. But yeah, Tom Hanks and Sully. Next honorable mention we're going to talk about is Soul Surfer. This has to do with a surfer named Bethany Hamilton. And, they just basically, she lives in the water, and it also has Dennis Quaid, Helen Hunt, Kevin Sorbo, Carrie Underwood. So it's got a nice cast to it. But it all has to do with, Bethany. She's out swimming with some friends, and she gets attacked by a shark, and she actually gets her arm bitten off, so she loses her arm and has to basically learn how to, get through life with one arm, and get back into surfing. And this has to be hard because when you think about losing a limb, I think I would hate to lose an arm because I think we just take things for granted. How much we use our hands, to lose that, actually lose one and have to do everything with one. That's got to be tough. Hats off to anybody out there that actually, loses a limb. I have mad respect for any like that. But, if I had to pick, I think losing a leg would be a lot. Yeah, we walk, but I think it's not as important as having your hands. So to lose an arm and have to go through life that way and learn everything with only one hand, and plus to go out, do the things you love, like surfing. This has to do with all about her learning how to do all that again, and overcoming that. So yeah, definitely check out Soul Surfer. Great movie. Next honorable mention, we got another mainstream movie, and we got Mark Wahlberg. We just talked about Tom Hanks. Now we got a Mark Wahlberg movie, Patriots Day. And it also has J.K. Simmons, John Goodman, even Kevin Bacon plays a small role in it. But this revolves around the Boston Marathon bombing. Very good movie. Highly recommend checking this out. Next up, we've got another inspirational movie that you may not know about. I talked about it. I think I've talked about this a couple of times. I even did a review of, and it's Breakthrough. Incredible, heartfelt movie. Really pulls at your heartstrings. There's definitely a scene in there to where I definitely tear up and cry. It is incredible. Very emotional movie. Basically revolves around this kid, 14 years old, and the accident happens. His friends are playing out on this frozen lake, and it breaks, and he falls through, and he's rescued, but they try to do everything they can at the ER, but he's finally pronounced dead. He's been gone for about an hour, and the mother comes in, and that whole scene will just it tears me up when watching. It's crazy. And she's crying and praying, and finally he revives. He gets a heartbeat, and he comes back. And this is it's hard to believe that this is actually a true story. This actually happened. This is a phenomenal movie. If you have not heard of this, I highly recommend checking this out, whether you get it on Blu-ray or 4K here. This is incredible. Next up, we've got a Christian faith-based movie, Life Mark. They come from the Kendrick brothers. You know, they've done a lot of great movies, but this is actually a true story. And it revolves around adoption. And this didn't get a lot of fanfare when it came out because it came out during a time of the whole overturning of the Roe versus Wade stuff and all the abortion rights, pro-life and all of that. So this was kind of a touchy subject. So this, you know, uh, no one wanted to touch us as far as distributors. So this had a very limited theatrical run. Only certain places it's played at. I actually did a review of this you could check out. It's a great, it's a pro-life movie, but at the same time, it doesn't jam it down your face. I'm a person I see both sides of it, pro-choice, but doesn't go into that. I mean, a little bit, and toward the end, it talks a little bit about that, but it's more about what life would be like, as far as, being put up for adoption. And, this revolves around a, kid turning 18 and the biological mother finally, updates her records, reaches out to, and, this, documents the whole thing about his journey of, meeting the biological parents. So this is a very well done movie, without throwing things in your face. It just got a great story to it. It's got some nice, it's got some great, because the funny character is his best friend is he loves doing video blogging. So he wants to document this whole thing. So he's got a camera in everyone's face. So it's a funny character there. So yeah, definitely check out Life Marcus. It's a great movie. Next up, we've got Dolphin Tale. This is actually a true story about the dolphin named Winter that's rescued, and her actual tail has to be amputated because it's so far gone. And they decide to, devise a prosthetic tail for her. It's got Morgan Freeman in it, Ashley Judd, Harry Connick Jr. So it's got a really good cast to it. Yeah, my wife and I, we always love this movie. And our last time we went to Florida, we actually went over to Clearwater and went to the aquarium where actually Winter was actually there. We got to see, that was pretty cool. So yeah, definitely Dolphin Tale, definitely a great true story that you need to check out if you haven't. Next up, we've got another Mark Wahlberg movie I definitely highly recommend is Deepwater Horizon. This is actually directed by Peter Berg, who also directed Mark and Patriots Day. And it also has Kurt Russell in it. It has to do with the offshore oil rig and about the big explosion. And, very good true story here. Got a lot of good action sequences, great performances. So yeah, Deepwater Horizon, definitely another great honorable mention here. Next up, we've got another obscure, it's a good kind of a faith-based movie. It is a true story, but it's a, obscure, you probably haven't heard of. Miracles from Heaven. A great inspirational movie. I've seen this a couple times. It's got Jennifer Garner in it. And also Queen Latifah has a role in it, which is really cool. Basically, revolves around a 10-year-old girl. She becomes sick and no one knows what's going on. Finally gets to specials. Like they, finally get diagnosed with something. It's a very rare disease. And they go through all these treatments and, there's, flying up to Boston all the time to see the specialist. And finally this little freak accident happens. She's, injured, but then all of a sudden she's cured and no one knows why. And so very great movie here. Another good tearjerker, very emotional. So yeah, definitely if you haven't heard of this one, definitely check this out. Very good. Next up, we've got The 33. This has to do with the miners that were actually trapped. I think it was back down in Chile. There was a mine. There was a collapse, and and it's all about the survival of the miners, the rescue. This actually has Antonio Banderas in it, James Brolin, Lou Diamond Phillips, and also it was directed by Patricia Regan, which she actually directed the last one I just talked about, Miracles from Heaven. So she actually did both of them. So very well done. She does a pretty good job with doing true stories. So yeah, great story here. You know, like I said, they're trapped in the mine down for 69 days. You know, and all survive. So very good movie. Definitely need to check this out. Now the last one we're going to talk about, I don't have with me. I couldn't find a damn thing. I've got some DVDs that are missing. I need to find. But I know I had this. I did do it during my True Story month a few months ago. It's not a complete true story. It's kind of inspired by a story. It's Unstoppable, directed by Tony Scott. Has Denzel Washington, Chris Pine, and just it's like it's loosely based on an event about an unmanned train. It's a runaway train. So they just took that story and kind of rewrote it because a real story happened in Ohio, and this takes place in Pennsylvania. And they just kind of did all their own things. If it was a complete true story, it probably would have made it into my top 10 because this is a phenomenal movie. But I decided I want to talk about it, so I put in honorable mentions because, like I said, it's inspired by a true event, but the whole movie is not a true story. But definitely it's one you have to see. I've watched this multiple times. I freaking love it. I even did a Blu-ray review of it, because it was such a great transfer. I'd like to see it on 4K, but I'm content with the Blu-ray. But yeah, definitely check out Unstoppable. So that does it for the honorable mentions. I know there's quite a few there, but there's just a lot of them I wanted to discuss, and a couple obscure titles that you probably didn't know about. I just wanted to recommend. You definitely want to check out. So now let's jump into the top 10. And coming in at number 10, we've got another football movie. We're going to talk about American Underdog. A story about Kurt Warner. Basically, he had a dream of playing football, and it just didn't happen. Nothing ever panned out. So he's sitting there working odd jobs. He's working as a stock boy at a store. So he kind of follows his whole story of overcoming all that and going after his dream. At that age of life to actually go from a stock boy at a little convenience store to being an MVP at the Super Bowl. Has Zachary Levi, Anna Paquin, Bruce McGill, Adam Baldwin. Also, this was directed by Andrew and John Irwin, the Irwin brothers, which they did The Woodlawn, which I talked about in honorable mentions. They do some pretty good movies, and also we'll get to there's another one of their movies that's in my top 10 we'll get to. So it definitely has some good actors in it. So yeah, American Underdog comes in at number 10. Great movie. So coming in at number 9, we got Blindside. It has Sandra Bullock, Tim McGraw. Another great two-story football and another football movie. Follows the story of Michael Orr. One of the two black kids that actually get enrolled into this Christian school, and going from that poverty and going into school and then being such a big football player and making a name for himself. How the Toohey family just kind of take him in and make him part of the family. So very well done movie. I really like this. I've watched this multiple times and never gets old. Next up, we've got The Right Stuff. Definitely some of you've probably only heard of it. I mean, it's not what you call mainstream movies, because it came out in 1983. It basically follows the start of the NASA program. When the movie starts, covers the breaking of the sound barrier with Chuck Yeager, and then goes on because these are test pilots and what it takes to actually become an astronaut. So there's just a lot of test pilots being used. Covers the beginning of the Mercury 7 astronauts. And it's got an all-star cast. I mean, we got Sam Shepard, Scott Glenn, Ed Harris, Dennis Quaid, Fred Ward, Lance Hendrickson's in it. So great cast here, great movie. It's a feel-good movie too. There's scenes in there where it just kind of gives me goosebumps because it's got a great music score as well. So yeah, if you have not seen The Right Stuff, great movie, great story. Check this out. Coming in at number 7, we've got Mark Wahlberg again. And another football movie, Invincible. This is a phenomenal movie. I've watched this multiple times. Basically revolves around, Mark Wahlberg plays Vince Papale. He's a bartender and he, plays football all the time, but he's never played professionally or, nothing big time. But, friends, everyone talks him into going to trying out for the Philadelphia Eagles because they bring in this new coach, Dick Vermeil, and he holds this open tryout at the stadium. And so, Vince goes to the tryouts and just whatever, nothing, goes have some fun, plays on the field, and then he gets invited to training camp and goes through the whole training camp and actually gets onto the team. So yeah, definitely a great story here. Definitely worth watching. Like I said, I've watched this multiple times. This is why it's one of my favorites. Coming at number 6, we have another space program movie, Apollo 13. This is it's a mainstream movie. Probably everybody has seen, but phenomenal movie. It's directed by Ron Howard, which everything he does turns to gold. I mean, I don't think that guy knows how to make a bad movie. I love everything he does. And of course, this has Tom Hanks, another Tom Hanks and Mark Wahlberg again. They do so much. But besides Tom Hanks, we got Kevin Bacon, Bill Paxton, Ed Harris, Gary Sinise. So all star-studded cast. Great movie. Now, next up, you might be surprised. This is a newer movie. And it's the more I watch it, the more I love it. Especially I'm kind of biased because I love the band. But I can only imagine. This follows a true story. The life of Bart Millard, the lead singer of the Christian band Mercy Me, which I fell in love with. I love their music. My wife and I seen them in concert a couple of times. Bart is played by John Michael Finley. We also have Dennis Quaid in it. Trace Adkins, he plays the manager of the band. Dennis Quaid plays the abusive father. And it just, such a destructive childhood. Like I said, it really shows what Bart, lived through and then, to get away from and, follows because when he was a kid, he was trying to follow his footsteps of his father playing football. Then he gets injured and can never play again. So he gets into singing. So yeah, if you have not seen this, highly recommend. It's another Erwin Brothers movie. They directed it. Another phenomenal job, incredible. And of course, Dennis Quaid. I mean, I love Dennis Quaid. Anything he does, and he pulls off a phenomenal role here. Now, coming in at number 4, we've got another football movie. Guess that. Radio has a Cuba Gooding Jr. in it and Ed Harris. Also, Deb Winger. So, phenomenal movie. I just watched this again the other day as part of my inspirational movie month. I don't know how many times I've watched this. This is why it's high on the list because I've watched this over and over. Cuba plays this role of a handicapped kid that no one knows what kind. We don't know what kind of handicap it is. He's just mentally he's challenged, but he's a kid at heart, but he's just kind of awkward. He's never accepted. He just kind of wanders the streets, and everyone just kind of forgets about him, doesn't want anything to do with him. And Coach Jones, played by Ed Harris, he kind of sees things. He kind of wants to take him under his wing, and gets him involved with the school stuff, the school, the football team, and then the basketball. And just, the role Cuba does. I mean, I love Cuba Gooding Jr., the stuff he does. He's a phenomenal actor. And this role is one of those. The way he plays it is phenomenal. So that's why Radio comes at number 4. Incredible movie. Now, next up is another one that's missing. I couldn't find a damn thing. But it's Men of Honor. Another Cuba Gooding Jr. movie. It's another one I've watched this many, many times. I love it. It's got a great story. Also has Robert De Niro, Charlize Theron. All has to do with the story of Carl Brashears. Basically he wants to become the first black Navy diver. And Robert De Niro plays Leslie Sunday, basically the trainer at the diving school, and he does everything he can to make sure that Carl doesn't graduate. He wants to make sure he fails. And it's a great, the bonding of those two characters are incredible. So yes, Men of Honor, it definitely is one I want to upgrade. I mean, I never upgraded to Blu-ray. I've got the crappy DVD. I need to get the 4K of it. But yeah, Men of Honor, number 3. Now we get into the top 2. This was really difficult because I've watched both of these many, many, many times. At number 2, I've probably watched more, but I just, the number 1, I just had to put up first. But so coming at number 2 is another football movie. Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington, Will Patton. Phenomenal movie. Revolves around, these schools. There's a black school, a white school. They're actually forced to integrate into one school they call T.C. Williams High School. And so, the football players, all have to force to be together. And the coaches, Will Patton plays Coach Yost. He's the main head coach of the team. And Denzel's character, Herman Boone, he gets hired as the assistant coach. But all of a sudden, because of all the other coaches in the league are all white, they decide they want to make Boone the head coach. And Coach Yost ends up being talked into staying as an assistant coach. There's always a lot of friction between those two, and then there's sort of the whole bonding between them, and they get all the players together. And also, once they get back after training camp's over, they get to the school and they just get thrown back into everyone. No one wants to deal with the black and white issue. So phenomenal job, incredible. I've loved this movie from day one. This will probably never get a 4K because this is Disney, but maybe Sony can do it. But anyways, there's a phenomenal here. It's definitely one of my wife's favorite movies as well. We've watched this many, many times. Now, next up, before we get into my number 1, so let's go back through and do a recap of the top 10. Coming at number 10, we had American Underdog. Number 9 was Blindside. Number 8, The Right Stuff. Number 7, Invincible. Number 6, Apollo 13. Number 5, I Can Only Imagine. Number 4, Radio. Number 3, Men of Honor. Number 2 was Remember the Titans. So, number 1, true story, I had to put at number 1, even though I haven't watched as much as Remember Titans, but I have watched this many times, and it's a phenomenal movie. I just think overall it is a better movie. Miracle. And, Kurt Russell, Patricia Clarkson, revolves around the U.S. Olympic team. Kurt Russell's character, he plays Herb Brooks. He's a hockey coach, and he gets hired to coach the U.S. Olympic team for the big Olympic Games. And with all, the time period takes place, there's so much stuff going on in the world. This is all about bringing America, back in the forefront, getting the American pride. Getting these kids are from different backgrounds to kind of work together, even though some of them hate each other. So phenomenal job. Great performances here. That is why Miracle is my number 1 true story movie. Phenomenal job. I recommend this enough. So there you have it, my top 10 list and a list of honorable mentions. I hope you enjoyed these. I hope you learned something about some of them. Maybe you have not heard about some of these. Definitely, like I said, I recommend all of them. Check them out if you haven't seen them. And let me know what some of your favorites are. Have you heard of all these? Or, if you definitely want to check some of these out if you haven't heard of them. Please, comment below. Let me know what you think. Check out my other videos on my channel. Like, subscribe, turn your bell notifications on. And we'll see you soon. Geek out.